Guess what today is? It's my birthday. I'm 27 years old, and today is a very hectic day because tomorrow I leave for Europe. I'm going to be going to Ireland, Amsterdam, and France, or Paris. I can't wait to share all of my reference images and the art inspiration I get from that trip with you guys. But today, we're going to be talking about my most embarrassing things I did as a young artist. And we're also gonna make a wave painting. If you guys want to support this channel, check out my social media links, help me raise my numbers, check out the content, fresh content, kids. And if you would like to buy this painting, it will be available at Sealark, but I won't be able to ship it until I am home and it is dry, so expect some delays on shipping. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, subscribe. Story times. Before we can start, I just want to say I am so jealous of how well some artists are able to do these and how impressed I am every time at their casual, functional memories. I know everyone says this, but I swear I have the worst memory. Visiting home last year, I had a lot of surprise encounters with old classmates and teachers, and honestly, I am unnerved by the limitations of my recall. One teacher remembered where I sat in this class while I couldn't even summon the subject matter another teacher taught me. A couple of people actually apologized for teasing me. Then some talked about really nice interactions we had, and I stood there feeling like an inconsiderate trash bag, hoping I wouldn't be too embarrassed by this other me's actions that I am now completely blind to. But today, I'm going to attempt a deep dive into the near impossible for you, my rose. I'm pulling together my memories to explain the 5 most embarrassing things I did as a beginner artist that I can remember. Since this is going to be hard for me, let's start young, like really young, so that I have more material to draw from. Get it? Draw from. Number 1. Robin has been many things in her lifetime. She has been small, awkward, quiet, slightly taller, still awkward, extroverted, introverted, etc. But when I was medium tiny size, like talking age to early elementary school age, I was obstinate. I had a strong will and knew what I wanted, how I felt. I was passionate, or in other words, perhaps a brat. But around this time is born my first embarrassing memory of me as a young artist. My first art meltdown. If this story exists somewhere in another video or in an alternate Rick and Morty-esque dimension of the Robin Sealark channel, I apologize, but hopefully it's new to most of you. You see, for quite a number of years, my mom, being the great mom she is, wanting to help me, would work alongside me, give me guided practice on homework, reading, art, but on this particular day, the dark stars had aligned and I was in a mood when she committed the unpardonable sin. We were working together, she had a suggestion, and then demonstrated what she was doing by working physically on top of my artwork. The nerve! This quickly resulted in me getting in my head that she had ruined it. I couldn't undo what she'd done. Now the marker marks were forever there. My floral printed dress drawing was never going to be the same, and it was ruined. In this memory of my younger self, I am a literal nightmare. So many memories from my early childhood. I cringe on my lack of control and absolute disrespectful attitude toward my parents. I think about moments and I want to teleport back in time, sit on myself, and tell me to chill the freak out. So, okay, I exercise independence, and from then on I was adamant about doing my work, all work on my own, academic and artwork, and maybe there are some pros. Maybe I joined the impassioned artistiverse in that moment, but more likely, I was just being a little poop. Bad reactions is a common thread of my embarrassment in these stories, so let's get the apology out of the way. Mom, I love you. Thank you for teaching me, and I'm sorry. Number 2. It is grade 6, the year is 2003, and the school's abuzz. Everyone has been offered the challenge to create a design for the graduating class's end-of-year t-shirts, and the hall is lined with prospective entries. Robin has created a tiny, cute, and cliche smiling globe for her logo, shaded like a pro to emphasize the spherical nature of this Little Earth design. Through the day, class after 6th grade class goes down the hall, casting their votes, and a day or so later, what should happen? Robin is called outside and told she won. Hooray! Overjoyed! Until some sad fate comes into play. I won't find this out until the t-shirts have been printed, but it turns out that the print design can only use 2 colors. So now every beautiful shade has been reduced to one flat color, blue or green. And as a secondary result, all clean edges are no longer smooth. I'll just insert the result on the screen so you can get a full picture. It's sort of derpy and cute now, but at the time a classmate and neighbor of mine, though to be clear not a friend, came up and said, "So did people actually vote for this?" Excuse me. Not one of my finer moments in my young artist career, but definitely burned into memory for both the thrill and flattery, and then the deep shame and horror of being openly mocked for an execution of a design that I had no place to improve or tweak before final results. I mean, I'm 12, but Come on. We're gonna jump way ahead to college now. College is more full of embarrassing art moments than any other years of my life because I remember it best, and also because it's the time I most seriously was doing art. So story number 3. It's 2011. Robin has now been introduced into the magical world of new genre art. For context, new genre is a 20th century art movement encompassing all non-conventional visual art forms. We're talking performance, body, video, sound, installation, conceptual artwork. Abandon your canvases unless you plan to strap 100 to yourself, hand out paintbrushes, and turn yourself into a walking performative art piece for people to chase after. New genre art encompasses work like that of Bill Viola, who made video pieces of people moving through water and fire to tell visually symbolic stories of rebirth and resurrection, or Marina Abramovic, who sat in silence across from hundreds of strangers one at a time, wordless, while they stared at her, laughed, left, or cried. Or Jeanette Eckelman, installing huge aerial net sculptures in vibrant colors billowing over cities and public spaces. New genre is truly awesome. Robin's first attempts? Not so much. I made a number of overly emotional but not very deep performance pieces, things I had no real conceptual connection to, like me sitting clothed in a shower with water running, or me applying layers of makeup to poorly wash them off and reapply over and over, some social commentary I have no attachment to, but most embarrassing by far wasn't a bad idea. It was just a terrible execution. So I had this idea. I figured out if you have 2 people face to face, one mouthing words and making no noise, while the other blows air into their moving lips, you can hear the words that the one person is mouthing. It's pretty cool. Try it with someone you like who has a clean mouth. Now here comes the problem. The way my new genre class worked was that you would show everyone your project, but you could not say anything about it, no explanation, and while you had to remain silent, the class would observe, interpret, and critique. So I played the video, ready for everyone to think, cool, how'd you do that? But instead I watched as everyone sat in silence with horror and discomfort slowly rolling over them. See, back then I didn't have good lights, or a nice camera, or understanding of how to make an aesthetic presentation, or even how to use video format to effectively communicate ideas, so what I thought was going to be a cool little body experiment ended up reading as a sort of dark interpretive film. All my classmates saw was 2 people, faces posed close together in a dimly lit room, and instead of the mechanics of my cool body trick being apparent, what they saw only looked like one person whispering to the other the line, "I'm trying to catch your breath," over and over. After the video ended, people presented emotional, dark, disturbed interpretations of what they'd seen. They couldn't tell the mechanics at play of the 2 mouths working together to make a word. Instead, they just heard that creepy whispering. "I'm trying to catch your breath. I'm trying to catch your breath. I'm trying to catch your breath. I'm trying to catch your breath." What would you think? I had to sit through the most painfully awkward critique, bursting to tell them I was sorry, and I didn't mean to convey their interpretations at all. When I could finally open my mouth, peeps were relieved, and we discussed how I should have done the project. Now that I have their suggestions in mind, who knows? Maybe I'll try to do the performance video correctly sometime and post it on this channel. I'm trying to catch your breath. Stories 4 and 5 carry a lot of similarities, but both get to the heart of why I decided to make this video in the first place. The major thing that I regret and facepalm over my youths, and sometimes can still be hard for me to swallow as an adult. The infamous enigma to grace every art student and art practitioner's life, the art critique. See, when I originally scripted and framed my embarrassing moment examples, here's the list I first came up with. 1. Not being able to take a critique. 2. Arguing with critique. 3. Not taking advice. 4. Having an ego. Obviously, I very quickly realized these were all essentially the exact same thing and I had to reform some of my ideas, but I'm excited to get to the heart of what embarrasses me most about my early years making art. Number 4. While maybe not the most embarrassing moment, again, it's embarrassing in retrospect. And for whatever reason, this specific one clung to my memory. Probably 2011, right after my 3rd semester in my art program. It was summer, I was back home for break. I hadn't gone into developing a style or personal direction in my program, but I was painting over break, and at the time of this memory, I had just finished making a portrait combining a reference photo of a cousin with a background echoing Gustav Klimt, and I was feeling pretty proud of it. I was discovering my natural pull towards portraiture. I felt happy, technical feats had been achieved, and I had positive reception from family. thus far. Since it was summer, my older, wiser, cooler, more established artist cousin was in town. Likely my mom, being a sweetheart, probably suggested my cousin go take a look at the painting I'd been working on, to which I would have bashfully and modestly responded by leading said cousin into the other room to see. After that, I remember quiet consideration. Not the immediate ooh of approval you hope for when presenting new work. I mean, it makes sense. She was a Pratt graduation. She'd been around a lot of work, made a lot of work, but I remember next to that feeling of disappointment when, not expecting expecting critique but receiving one. Immediately your defenses come up, justifications for not taking the advice to heart or arguments of disapproval come to mind. I can't recall my outward reaction, but I remember my resistance to what I now would call fair and accurate critique. She critiqued the surface level value of it, its assignment-like feeling. It was just kind of a straightforward portrait, and there wasn't much else to be said about it. The critique of something looking assignment-y wasn't something I fully understood then as a concept, but something I've become more attuned to over time. It is the difference in a piece a teacher instructed you to do that has specific educational value, but maybe doesn't dive deeper to capture personal voice, interest, narrative, or visual direction. I cringe when I think of my hubris and my younger self, turning away opportunities to learn from people with more experience or outside perspective to offer me. Too resistant and unwilling to sacrifice my self-image as a proficient artist to just quietly consider the potential use and merit of information presented to me and the potential reward of growing and assimilating ideas faster. On that same note comes story number 5. Story 5 is a collective story. It's the sum of the experiences I had in group critiques in college and the lessons I learned from them. If you haven't heard me say it before, the number one criticism I received during college was perceived inauthenticity in my artistic choices. Peers questioned whether I made hyperrealistic portraits out of authentic desire and love for the subject matter, or whether I did it because I valued the work's technical impressiveness and reception. Letting their questions and critique hang in the air without ready response always felt uncomfortable. I didn't like having what felt like an unfair evaluation sit in the open without any pushback. I didn't like the way those questions felt like a negative reflection of my motives. Defensiveness isn't a good look, though. When I could have been slow to respond and let their questions filter in and sit for a time without an answer, instead I looked for more immediate answers. The critiques pushed me. They asked me to look at my artwork more critically and push myself to do more with my pieces, to think about what I wanted to achieve and make strides to establish and accomplish artistic goals. In the end, everything's worked out fine. Through time, I actually did years later give myself latitude to throw public perception to the wind and make technically unimpressive work with more experimental, looser pieces, but every time I think of a memory, art or non-art related, where my ego felt too fragile to listen and consider another way of thinking that I had not yet actually considered carefully, makes me cringe. Critique is important. Outside voices are important. Humility, patience, and listening are important. Admitting to yourself and others that you lack understanding is not embarrassing. Often it's actually the exact opposite and can become a tool to develop a more open discussion and faster collaborative learning. And so concludes my 5 most embarrassing moments as a beginner artist. What are yours? I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, maybe subscribe to the channel. It'd be nice to have you around. And that painting is available at robinsealark.com. And you can check out all of my social media accounts at robinsealark, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. Okay, wish me luck in Europe and in being 27 years old. Okay, have a great weekend, folks.